Hello, it's almost 7 o'clock. And I said that I'd start this live. This is a new platform for me, so I don't know whether I've gotten it down, whether anybody's going to come, but I'll create the live anyway. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're in the midst of like the second week or the beginning of the third week of having to social distance and having to cope with all the different feelings that come up because of having to social distance. And I encourage people to come by sending a newsletter that was primarily about astrology, but I'm going to talk before I begin about I'm going to start it off with something that you can do while you watch. And that comes from an ancient healing art called Jinshin Jitsu. And it takes the hand and it gives the hand, you use the hand to help you with worry, fear, anger, grief, and anxiety. And do you have any of that is going on these days? Well, these are called handholds, and they connect to meridians in the body, just like reflexology. If you've have your feet work done, that there are points in the bottom of your feet that relate to organs in the body. That's also the same for the hands. And this is working with that energy. It comes from Japan. I modified it a bit, but it comes from a healing art by the name of Jinshin Jitsu. And so remember what I'm saying is worry, fear, anger, grief, anxiety. So here we have the hand. So what you do is if you've got a hand and you've got a pen, you take out your pen and you just copy your hand. Then I went over it with a Sharpie to make it darker. And there's a hole at the bottom of the heel of the hand, and I filled that in. And what you want to do is like literally this, because it's connecting to the meridians of the body, it literally influences organs to react. And so the first one is, let's take our right hand and put the middle, you point your finger in the middle of your left hand. And if you just hold it there, you will see that you have to breathe more deeply. And if you change it, you will have to breathe more deeply. That is connecting to your diaphragm. And it's a wonderful way, if you're starting to feel anxious or you're having to wait in line, you're feeling nervous, and you're going for a job interview, very unobtrusive to just do this. And each time I do it, I find that I have to take a deeper breath, which is really cool. So just for me to repeat what I was talking about, this is called Jinshin Jitsu, is what the healing art is called in Japan. As I say, I've modified it a little bit. So when you're worried, you wring your thumbs. So thumb is related to worry. And the opposite of worry is what I'm using is hope. So I have the whole hand with the positive energy above the challenging energy. So thumb, hold your thumb, and you might tell yourself, I am hopeful. I am hopeful. And as soon as you take a deeper breath, it's proving that it's doing its job and it's influencing the meridian. So then these pointer fingers, when you're afraid, you point, it's your fault. So fear is what the pointer fingers are. And the word that I use instead over fear is courage over fear. So you can see in my hand, it says courage over fear. Hold. So is there some place in your life where you need courage? Let's everyone who's on this call be supportive, and everyone who will listen to this call will see about them feeling supported. Okay, so we know this finger, this finger is the anger finger. And so this finger is what I have is determination over anger. So that when you need to up your sense of determination, you can get through this. We can get through this virus crap that's going on. You hold your middle finger. Then we've got the ring finger. Ring finger is typically considered in relationships, and relationships can frequently cause us plenty of grief. This is what you hold this finger for. You hold it for the words I'm using are grief and comfort. So just think to yourself, I'm comforting myself. I'm comforting myself. And then the pinky finger is, I'm using that as anxiety. And sometimes it's also called, and that's what I put on, pretense, where, like, have you ever seen somebody hold a cup and hold their finger, or like, hello, that's pretense. But pretense is probably influenced by anxiety, and the word I have over top pretense is authenticity. So we could go through this. So the middle of the finger, I didn't give you the positive word. The positive word is centered. So let's just go through a hand. I'm centered with the positive energy. I'm hopeful. I'm courageous. What did I say? I'm determined. I'm comforted. And I am authentic. So those are the words. You could use your words that fit best for you to make a difference. You've got these hands at the ends of your arms. You can use them anytime, and you can use that while we talk as you go through this. I hope that will be helpful for you. See, some people have signed in and they've given me messages. I'm sorry, with my glasses on top of my head, I'm coordinating learning this platform, so I can't see what you have to say. I will look at them anon. I called this meeting because we are in a full moon, and full moons, typically in Florida where I live, there's full moon ceremonies, there's at the beach, there's drumming circles, everybody's going out, it's a fun time. And now we're social distancing, and so we're not doing that. And this is a pretty impressive full moon. By what do I mean by that? Well, if I'm going to hold up for you, I hope you can see this. Yes. All these guys over here, those guys over here include Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter and Mars and Pallas Athena and the South Node. I guess the South Node has moved on a little bit, so I don't know that the South Node is so close. the South Node is it going in retrograde, so it's over here, but it's in this whole area. And they don't come, these planets do not come together a whole bunch of time. I mean, like Saturn and Pluto only come together every 34 to 38 years. Last time they came together was in 1982, and we had the AIDS crisis. So as astrologers, we knew something was going to be up when Saturn and Pluto conjoined. And then we knew that this was going to be even bigger because Jupiter, the planet of expansion, was going to be involved in it. And then to make it a little more chaotic, let's add Mars, the planet of assertion and war. So what is happening with this full moon is, you see, if we drew a line to there and if we drew a line to there, it would be about even. So the sun and the moon, the sun is over here and the moon is over here. The sun and the moon are right placed so that these guys are in what's known as a T-square. You see there's a 90-degree angle that they come off of, and they're right in between the sun and the moon. And what does that mean? Well, that means that this particular full moon is probably going to set up a level of uneasiness that, I mean, we've already experienced lack of ease in the world for quite a long time with figuring out what to do about closing down businesses and how are we carrying on and such as that. And so there are some things to know about this chart that we have going on here, and I want to encourage you, if you listened and you saw me go through the finger holds, it can be like, if I'm talking to you about some stressful things, you can be comforting yourself by simply holding your fingers like this. And you hold them long enough in order to that it influences the meridian and you take a deeper breath. And so I encourage you to, while you're listening, to do that. I also encourage you to, if you want to trace your hand and make one of these for yourself. You can go back and look at this video and see how I put the words together. Coming along, as I get myself together a little bit more, I'll probably have a download that you can go to my website and get a page with this information. But so while you're listening, you can just go through your fingers. Now I'm going through a little quickly. Go through your fingers so that you have enough time to breathe. So what I'm talking about is we have the moon, the full moon is in Libra, and the sun giving energy to Libra is Aries. And sometimes it's useful to translate these into tarot cards so that the sun, that's pretty easy to see that that's the sun, is in Libra. And what is the Libra? The Libra is all about relationships, and the middle 10 degrees of Libra, the sun is at 18 degrees Libra, and 18 degrees Libra, well, 10 to 20 is defined by this card. And so the moon are our deepest feelings. So it may well be that today has been a agitated, sad, not feel great about life day. I can certainly attest to that myself. That's how my day has been. And so what we have is, on one side of our circle that is our zodiac. On one side, we have, over here, we have the moon. And the moon is, and I just did that wrong. Sorry. Over here we have the moon. The moon is the high priestess. See, we have the moon on the card. And the sun, we have opposite. That's the Three of Swords. And opposite, we have the Three of Wands, which is where the sunshine is. So the moon is feeling a little under the weather. The sun is a picture of Columbus looking at his ships. And Columbus looking at his ships, I mean, there's a lot of controversy about Columbus, as you know, that he wasn't a good guy, but in terms of how much he raped and pillaged as he went along. But we're not here to talk about that right now. We're talking about him as a symbol of the person who, once he started out, he kept going. And this picture has the three ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. And it's related to where the sun is right now. So the sun is shining light on the moon saying, you can do this, you can go the distance, you can do this, you can go the distance, you can do this, you can go the distance. The thing is that what is happening is the moon and the sun communicating with one another get pulled down with these planets like this. They're kind of overwhelmed. This is called a square, and you see how, because it makes a square angle. They're at an angle, they're 90 degrees with one another. You know, we could have that configuration, and we could have the sun and the moon at a full moon are always directly opposite one another, but they didn't have to be, so that all the bad actors or the troublemakers, the Pluto, the Mars, the Pallas Athena, who is a warrior, these are planets that are causing havoc in the world. And they are caught in the middle between this. And, you know, the hopeful message is that we can carry on and say to ourselves, we can go to the distance, this will work out fine. We may find that it's useful sometimes to have some help, and we've got help at the palm of our hands. And that's what I was talking about learning the system of handholds. If you missed the beginning part, you can always, I'm going to post this on YouTube. And Hattie Parker is my YouTube channel, and I'll post it on YouTube. So what are some of the other interesting things going on from a metaphysical, from a spiritual standpoint? Today is a day that adds up to 51. That's a 6, because 5 plus 1 is 6. And 5 plus 1, 51, the 51st card in the deck of cards is called the King of Swords. He sits in his chair with a sword right out in front of him. And this is the numerology of the day. And I always feel like the numerology and the astrology interact. There's always some way that I can draw them together, because I mean, these are just systems that describe help us figure out what's going on in the universe. And so they overlap. And so thinking about today, about the King of Swords. King of Swords is very direct person. Like King of Swords, he's got the sword. Sword represents the mind. He's got the sword, goes, whap, this is what I believe. Whap, this is what I believe. Perhaps this day you felt some level of which the heaviness of what is going on is starting to set in the sense of the this is what I believe. Now, where do I find some hopeful message in what's going on in the heavens? Because there's always hopeful messages. There's always hopeful messages. So I'm folding the paper and I'm showing you that this is the top, this is the bottom. So are we not surprised if I would say that most of what's going on in our world is going on behind the scenes, under the surface, lots of energy under the surface. Above the surface, we have only a few planets and some points. There's only 2 planets, well, and 2 significant bodies. I mean, real significant bodies. We've got Venus above the horizon and we have the moon above the horizon. The 2 feminine planets of the classic 10 planets, the classic 8 with the sun and the moon. And so we've got the feminine energy above the horizon. And the feminine energy, Venus, which is one of the 2, Venus is the Empress, and she's got flowers in her dress and wheat, and she's excuse me just a minute, she's just abundant. And the problem is that right now she's abundant and she feels backed into a corner because she's in Gemini, in the beginning of Gemini, feeling backed into a corner. She moves fairly quickly, so she will move out of Gemini into Cancer in a day or 2, but there's a heaviness, there's just a heaviness to, like, we've got all the planets that are kicking our butt are caught between the sun and the moon. The moon is feeling a little depressive, so the moon, it looks like this, and then the sun says, I can go on no matter what. That's a good message. And Venus is, I haven't shown you yet, she's feeling backed into a corner. She's in the beginning 10 degrees of Gemini, and this is the card for the beginning 10 degrees of Gemini. So she is just the moon, the sun and the moon, and then some supporting actors are the only ones above the horizon for the moment, for tonight, for when we go through this full moon tonight. And I want to talk about, so what does that mean if I give you all that? This is up here, and this is, you know, so heavy. What does all that mean? Well, I would say that we have to dig for where the good news is. And see that equilateral triangle that I drew? This is like my connecting the dots. I look at a chart and I go, what dots connect? And this is called a grand trine. And a grand trine is when planets are 120 degrees apart from one another, and they're all typically in the same sign or at close to being in the same sign. And this is what the case, these are all in Earth. And this grand trine in this chart, which is the chart, this is just taking today's chart and pulling it apart and putting it back together in different ways. We have Uranus, the planet of surprises. It is in the 6th house, which is the house of health. So it is, like we may hear some good news about health because this is a grand trine, and a grand trine is like a vein of gold in a chart. And so that's nice. We may hear some positive surprises going on. We've also got a couple fingers of fate. And the fingers of fate, you see how we have these isosceles triangles like that? And we've got one that points here, like we've got 2 of them, but both of them then have points that get activated a lot. And what is activated here is what's known as the midheaven. It's our highest goals in life. And that point up there is our highest goal. And I will go to the deck of tarot cards and show you what picture that is. That points to a picture of the apprentice who's sitting at the apprentice table figuring out what needs to be done. And so the highest level of this chart is that we can figure out what needs to be happening. It is within our reach to be able to do that. We might have some surprises about what healing is about. And we notice these isosceles triangles are like these fingers of fate. That's what one of these skinny triangles, it's called a yod, and these skinny triangles are fingers of fate. So we've got this triangle that points to where we're making progress with figuring it out. And this one as well points to that we're making progress, not like, this guy's sitting at the table. See, like these charts are drawn for when it's exactly the full moon. So when are we going to have the fullest idea about what we need to do? And I think the highest part of this chart is saying we need to be like the apprentice that studies and figures out what is needed at this time. And that where we look at what connects here to get this triangle or to get this triangle, that all pulls together Mars. Mars is the planet of assertion. And Mars is, sorry, my hair is flying away. Mars is about getting the job done. And the cool thing is that Mars is going forward. Mars is not going to turn, Mars is going forward. Mars in Capricorn, which all these planets in Capricorn, Capricorn is about big business, money, and government, and everything that we're seeing so much of right now. So Mars is being impacted by this finger of fate, but as well as what's being impacted by this finger of fate is the ability to sit and figure things out. Now, I choose to ascribe to the worldview that the good guys are going to win, that there is enough consciousness. I don't know whether you're aware of that there's a whole cadre of people who believe that what this is about is that it's time for the human race to wake up and not be oppressed by a cabal, that by an energy that just wants to hold the human race down, that it's time now for the human race to awaken. A full moon goes from this full moon to the new moon. I don't think that we're going to see this great awakening. I mean, the very top of the chart is about where we're studying and doing what needs to be done to figure out what is happening to awaken. I will tell you, I look at these planets. The bad actor planets are going to start retrograding, all in Capricorn. There's plenty. It's all of 2020. I know people would love to think that this is going to be over faster than that. I'm not sure that I'm a supporter of believing that that's the case. I think we're going to have to go the distance. I think that the sun, as it is right now, like Columbus went the distance. And we have got to go the distance. We've got to do our homework in terms of making what we need to make, making life into what we need to make. And full moons are beautiful. I mean, if you go outside and look tonight, this is supposed to be a pink. It's close. It's going to be big. It is being influenced. When you look at it, know that you're looking at a moon that has the energy of going the distance, and know in lunations following the moon, we have the full moon, and then the next big lunation is the new moon. So we've got 2 weeks where the new moon, about where the full moon, where we have an energy that says you can go the distance, and you can do, and your highest goal is to do what you need to do to make it work. And I think that for individuals, making it work is very different for every individual. There's some very exciting things I'm seeing in my clients' charts about opportunities, about ways of looking at themselves differently. If you would like to have your numerology, astrology, tarot card reading, I'm available. My website, I will post that in the comments. My website is hattieparker.com. You can get in touch with me that way. I encourage you to assure yourself that the light for even this, for even this moon, the light is shedding on the sadness. But even this card, you see that heart is fully intact. Even this card is a card of encouragement, and you can go the distance. And I encourage you to maybe use that as a mantra, and maybe you want to go through the finger holds and go, I can go the distance, 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 I can go the distance. Love and light. Another little trick is like when you put your thumbs in your breastbone like that, right under there is the thymus gland. Thymus gland is very related to your immune system. You want to stimulate the thymus gland. It also is related to having energetically, when I read auras, it's related to, are you doing with your life what you want to do with your life? So you might want to tap into that now that there's some time. We have to look at life differently. Tap into your thymus gland. and use your hands. And I wish you well. Thank you very much for listening. And I'll look at the comments and probably respond after the fact. Thanks very much. Bye.